What's up, everyone? I am Coach Kelly, and I'm here today to talk about part two of tracking macros while it is holiday season. So, there are a lot of you who are new to macro tracking. This is going to be your first year going through the holiday season using MyFitnessPal or using macros first. And this will be an opportunity for you to see if you can maintain your weight within 1 to 1.5 pounds while you're doing that. One of the reasons that I decided to track macros is I was sick of being all or nothing or having a black and white thinking process when it came to food. And flexible dieting and macro tracking allowed me to account for the things that I really wanted in moderation while also making sure that I get the things that I really need into my system also in larger quantities. And that is why macronutrients are very important, because they are your proteins, carbs, and fats. Now, fats are 9 calories per gram, so they're way higher on the scale of caloric intake. The more fat you eat, the more calories you eat, where protein and carbs are 4 calories per gram, way lower. And your body's going to prioritize using carbs first for fuel. If you don't have enough protein, sometimes you can end up burning some of your muscle for fuel. So it's important to have a perfect balance of proteins, carbs, and fats for your goal, not the goal of somebody else. While you're going into the holiday season, it's also going to be very important not to forget all of the habits that you would do when you're normally prepping throughout the week. Even if you're getting ready to go on a trip, on the plane, pack snacks, make sure that you prioritize protein first. If you've got to stop somewhere in the airport, make sure that you're looking for things that will have protein. So some of the things that are my go-to while I'm flying or traveling are sandwiches. You can always pack sandwiches. TSA is really great about bringing them on. Just put them in a double Ziploc bag. I would put at least 100 to 150 grams of protein in that sandwich, whether it's between some turkey deli meat or some chicken with a little bit of cheese or something of that nature with a whole grain bread. Try to pack some high quality in there, and also something that you know the value of. Bringing sandwiches is clutch, okay? Second to that would be packing protein powder. If you label it, you can bring it through TSA, no problem. Mixed nuts, and of course some dried fruit, because those are going to be fairly isolated to the macro value, where nuts are going to be primarily fat. They'll have a little bit of protein and carbs in them, but not much. And then the carb will be all of the dried fruit, or if you can get a hold of rice cakes or anything. Dried fruit's really easy to work with because you don't need much to fill your remaining carbs. So it's a stupid simple thing to bring with you that you can pack and not take up too much space in your carry-on or your checked baggage. And then protein powder, as long as it's sealed and labeled, should be just fine. Our coaching group usually uses the ISO 100, which is more of a lower fat to no fat, low carb protein powder with about a gram of protein per serving. So a gram of protein per gram on the scale, or very, very close. So if you were to bring your food scale and you put 25 grams on there, you are probably going to be pretty close to 19 or 20 grams of protein in that powder, which makes things stupid simple. You can use a water bottle, or you can just mix it right into a cup with room temp water, add ice if you want it colder, if you don't have access to a blender or something, or you can just simply use one of the grab and go water bottles. Cut the edge of the Ziploc bag, or the corner if you will, and just pour it right into the water bottle, kind of like a little funnel or makeshift funnel while you're traveling. So January 1st is usually when people are going to go back into recycling that 5 to 7 pounds that they gained over the holiday season. We want to make changes to your macro structure to put you closer to maintenance level calories, which would be your weight times your exercise multiplier. It really depends on how active you are as to where that is going to hit on that dartboard. So I'll take myself, for instance, at 138 pounds times 12. That's about my maintenance without expenditure. And then I'm light to moderately active, meaning I work out 5 or 6 hours a week. But other than that, I am fairly sedentary. So my multiplier is about a 13.5. So what I do during the holiday season is I'll take 138 times 13.5, because I know I'm going to continue to keep up with all of my activity. If you are not going to keep up with your activity, your maintenance multiplier might be slightly different. If you're going on the road, you won't have access to your gym, but you will be walking. your maintenance is going to be closer to your resting metabolic. So again, maybe a 12.5, take your current weight times 12.5. And what you're going to see is if you're in our coaching program, I'm already going to designate your maintenance macros for you. You're going to hit those, and we're probably going to kind of see at the end of the week in your check-in whether or not you're maintaining within a pound to a pound and a half, which is very usual if the person is focused on the goal and objective of actually hitting their macros while they're in their maintenance phase. So just like when you're in a fat loss phase, if you're in a maintenance phase for the holidays, you're going to have a little bit more to work with, but you are still going to want to prioritize first, making sure that you meet those macros every single night. So you will have to take that extra 3 to 5 minutes at the end of the night to budget, set aside what you need for your last meal, make sure that you're not over, put your food in before you eat it. That way you can also ensure that you're not over or under, and then you're going to fill your remaining macros even while you're eating more calories for the holiday season. Okay, this is going to give you way more to kind of throw and go with, because again, if you're one of those people that's traveling and you're just running from place to place, it's nice not to have to pre-log all your food like you did when you're in your fat loss phases for a couple of weeks. And you also get a little bit lower protein, because I know protein is a chore, but we're still going to think protein first before we have goodies. Because if you go into these holiday season parties and you don't prioritize protein and you have waited too long to eat, you all know what's going to happen. The sit of defeat. Yes. You heard it right here. If you don't go into parties having protein or a meal beforehand, you're kind of setting yourself up for a disaster, or one of those things where, you get there, the food is just so overly tasty, filled with sugar and salts and savory seasonings and spices, that you just can't get enough. And because you didn't prioritize protein earlier, usually you will end up over consuming on carbs and fat. All right. So that is really, really important. We want to keep up with as much activity as we possibly can. We want to not forego weekly prep during December through the new year of 2024. Can you believe we're almost there? We've got about 11 weeks left and plenty of time to lose body fat before we shift into Thanksgiving. And from Thanksgiving, it is a dead run all the way through December. So definitely make sure that you create a plan for going to these social engagements ahead of time. Leave yourself enough carbs and fat for later in the day if you're going to go to a social occasion in the evening. Maybe you have larger portions of protein and moderate carbs and moderate fat for breakfast. An egg white omelet would be really a good option, and then maybe a little bit more fat at lunchtime by having a turkey sandwich with some Swiss. That's going to keep your fats under 8 total grams for that meal. Have a shake before you go to the social engagement. Make sure that you have enough macros left in your bank so that you can leave aside probably at least half or 3/4 of your fats and carbs for the unknown if you're walking into something that you do not know, like what they will be serving there. Okay. So that's kind of just like preloading your food ahead of time so that you don't have issues once you arrive and feel like you have to pull off to the side and pull your MyFitnessPal open. Another thing that you can do that is really effective is taking photographs of what you actually ate and then just putting your phone away in your purse and socializing, and then putting everything into your tracker when you get home, and then filling your macros when you get home by leaving yourself enough of a parachute or a cushion for that. So these are all great strategies that will get you start to finish. If you've got alcohol that you need to put into your tracker, you're going to have a drink or two, I would always put 2 drinks in. The worst that can happen is you come home and you're going to remove one of those drinks and fill those remaining carbs with actual carbs, not a toxin. And you're going to have those carbs when you get back from the social engagement. So I would always leave yourself what you think you might do. And then if you're really good and you're like, I got there, I realized that 1 drink was just fine, and I had a mocktail for my 2nd drink. I was social, I enjoyed myself, I made good choices, I mindfully ate or drank while I was at the party. You're doing well, okay? So these are all things that I think will really help you. We've got an 8-part series of how to make it through the holidays under pressure, and this is session 2. The other thing I want to talk about before I let you guys leave for tonight is the stresses of our family and friends. Trust me, you guys, no one cares during the holidays whether or not you're actually drinking with them as long as you're drinking with them. No one's monitoring your alcohol, so just order a drink that is non-alcoholic and don't make a big deal out of it. The less you draw attention to yourself because you're on a fancy diet, the less you draw attention to the fact that you are not actually having alcohol, the more you can slide under the radar, if you know what I mean, okay? So if you order a Diet Coke with lime, it looks like you're having rum and Coke. It really does. It's no big deal. Not everybody's going to question you, but you just think they are. So enjoy yourself. If you don't feel like drinking because your goals are actually very important to you and you don't want to have, you want to minimize that fat regain over the holidays, you're making good choices. Maybe one night you choose to have alcohol, but the next night you get invited to another engagement and you say, you know what, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm actually going to set aside enough to have a couple hors d'oeuvres or something. I'm going to track it. I'm going to fill my macros when I get home and I'm going to move on. Flexible dieting is such that we can make choices. We should learn these healthy habits. We should learn how to negotiate so that we don't just go all or nothing, black or white, balls to the wall or not at all, as I say to my coaching clients. All right. So if the family is putting pressure on you, just make sure that you tell them you have big goals. Your goal is to maintain the fat loss that you've worked so hard for up until this year. You're going to indulge a little bit and you're going to enjoy some of the things that you want to have. But by no means does that mean that you can't say no thank you to someone if they offer you pie and you just are not hungry for it. Listen to yourself. And again, we have to remind ourselves it's oftentimes a reward, but we're not animals. We're not dogs where we need to have a treat every time we do something well or every time we come in contact with somebody that we haven't seen or met. It is okay and appropriate to say no thank you. I just had this, or I've already had my dinner tonight, or I'm not drinking tonight. Trying really to be very good this week because I've got another social engagement at the end of the week that I know I'm going to get crazy with. And it doesn't really matter if you do or don't. Just set up some healthy parameters. You're not a buzzkill because you say no thank you. And with that, I'm going to close. I'll see you guys back here next week for part 3 of surviving the holidays with macros.